The story I'm about to tell you and show you is disturbing, to say the least. But it's a story you need to know about, with a big, controversial murder trial coming up. In June of 2024, a native New Mexico teenager was shot and killed during what was just supposed to be a welfare check. What unfolded was anything but that, and it is all caught on video. I want to warn you, it's upsetting and very hard to watch. Crime Junkies, I'm Briana Whitney, and I'm going to take you through it, because this is where the nightmare began for 17-year-old Elijah Hadley's family and friends. Just after 11 p.m. on June 25th, 2024, Otero County Sheriff's Office in New Mexico gets dispatched to do a welfare check on Highway 70. Apparently, a woman was driving by. She'd seen someone walking alone on the side of the road, and it's pitch black out there at this time of night, so no one else is around, and she's suspicious of why someone is walking alone out there. So a deputy heads to the scene with his dash cam rolling. This isn't an emergency, so the deputy is driving pretty casually. So much so, he even turns on the club song In the Ghetto by J Balvin and Skrillex at full volume while cruising at 55 miles per hour. Around mile marker 241, the deputy spots this person on the side of the road, so he slows his cruiser as he pulls up alongside this person. It's a young guy. He looks like a teenager, appears to just kind of be walking, not running, and not acting irrationally. And he doesn't seem to be in distress. What you expect to happen next on the video footage we obtained is for the deputy to maybe turn down the music and holler out to him something like, "Hey, you good?" or "Where are you going? Do you need any help?" It starts that way, but that's not how it ended. What you're about to see and hear next will be shocking and disturbing. And to our knowledge, it's never been published in its entirety before. But the family of the young man who was walking on the side of that highway asked us to share it in full with you. They want the world to understand what exactly happened that night and why they're fighting so hard for justice. It all unfolds in just a couple of seconds, so pay attention.
Stop right there, bro. Stop. Stop. Stop right there. You all right? What are you doing? Let me see your other hand, bro. Let me see your other hand, dog.
When the deputy asked the kid to show his hand, he was carrying a shirt that was draped over his arm. So as he pulled out his hand, it revealed what looked like a gun, and he appeared to immediately throw it into the grassy side median. But it's as he's immediately getting it out of his possession that the deputy fires 4 shots. Now, the kid is on the ground, clearly in pain, as he cries out,
Let me see your hand!
He holds up a bloody hand, the one that he could still move after being shot. So at this point, it does appear he's following deputy's commands. Now, the deputy doesn't know whether or not it really is a BB gun. But either way, the guy is on the ground hurt, and whatever gun it is has been thrown away from his body into the grass. So at least from the dashcam video, it looks like any threat is under control. For several minutes, the deputy calls him back up. He goes to the other side of his car and gets out like a first aid kit, and then posts up behind his open car door as he waits for other units to arrive. And he radios out that he needs to render aid, but says he doesn't even know where the gun is or if the person could still pick it up. What happens next, as the teen is still rolling on the ground, shapes the entire crux of this case.
Don't go to that gun! 42 Basin, shots fired, shots fired! Don't reach for that gun! Subject down, subject down!
That second round of shots fired at the boy killed him before help or backup ever even arrived. The video shows them confirming he's dead at the scene. Within 2 days, New Mexico State Police confirmed 2 things. 1, the person killed was 17-year-old Elijah Hadley. And 2, it was just a BB gun he had. In Elijah's final moments, he was telling the truth. But there's a lot that officials don't answer in their initial press release, like who is the deputy and Does he still have a job after this? People don't necessarily question that right away, though, because the press release, in my opinion, glosses over one of the most critical facts of this case: how many shots were fired. In fact, all it says is that when Elijah presented what appeared to be a gun, quote, the deputy fired at least one round from his duty weapon, striking Hadley. At least one round? Sure, adding at least made that technically true, but at least one round did not tell the whole story at all. And we know that because we can see it and we can hear it. The number of shots actually fired at Elijah that night varies in case of media reports, but at a minimum, officials found he was physically struck by at least 15 bullets. So 2 weeks later, in July, when portions of the dash cam and the body cam were released to the public through local news stations, you can imagine the absolute uproar from people in the community. Because what Elijah's family and many in the community felt they just watched with their own eyes was an unjustified killing by the deputy of a teen that should not have died that night. Elijah Hadley was a Mescalero Apache teen and lived on the reservation nearby. We learned he was one of 5 siblings, all of which were now young adults, except for his little brother, whose birthday was actually the day after Elijah was killed. It was awful. This was a super hardworking family. Elijah's siblings had a lot of responsibilities: kids, military jobs, financial constraints, etc. And while they wanted justice for their brother, they truly did not even know where to start. My first question was, why would Elijah have been walking alone with a BB gun on the side of the highway at night? I mean, that seemed kind of weird. But family advocates told me it actually wasn't weird at all. You see, life on the reservation was far from perfect. The area is low income, so they said pretty often you would see people walking along the roads, sometimes on and off the reservation. And police records seem to corroborate that. I read that officers would get lots of calls of people walking up and down the road, especially in the summertime, and sometimes officers would even offer to give them rides back to the reservation line. But where was Elijah going? And actually, for that matter, where was he even coming from? Elijah's family believes his friends dropped him off that night and thought it would be funny to ditch him. Now, nobody knows this part for sure, but they think he was dropped off at the church down the street, which was about 2.5 miles from his mom's house on the reservation. So the thought was he was just simply walking home. When the deputy caught up to him, Elijah was less than half a mile from the reservation. So, had he made it over the res line, it is possible the Otero County deputy would not or could not have responded to this call at all due to the jurisdiction. And that part haunts everyone. Then there's the question of why Elijah had a BB gun. You could chalk it up to a teen being a teen, wanting to look cool. But what if the reason was more legit? I say that because it was community members that discovered something really important and telling that could actually explain why. According to the Bureau of Indian Affairs Police in Mescalero, they actually had a call for service involving Elijah just one day before the shooting. They said Elijah Hadley was the victim of battery, and they actually had pictures of Elijah with his face cut up that they took to put into the case file. So anyone could reasonably believe Elijah at least wanted to look like he was protected, to not get beat up again, and that's why he had the BB gun. But family advocates knew other rumors were going around town on the other side. People that thought Elijah was asking for trouble, carrying around anything that resembled a real gun, even if it was just a BB gun. And Elijah wasn't perfect. I spoke to one of his high school teachers, his teacher, Kelly Smith, who told me she taught him twice. And at one point in high school, he had to wear an ankle monitor after getting in trouble. But Kelly said Elijah really just needed more support, that he was actually very obedient and respectful of her. He was extremely artistic, kind of an old soul type. And he recently told her more or less that the past was in the past and he was going to seriously focus on his art to get himself on a good path moving forward. And he really wasn't just talking the talk on that either. He was taking action. He had just won a big art competition. The main thing that stuck with Kelly about Elijah was that he never, ever talked or fought back, not only with teachers, but with anyone. So when she learned he may have disobeyed the deputy and that's why he got shot, she thought, no way, that's not Elijah. For her, watching the video confirmed just as much and brought her to tears. Now, here's the thing. According to a KOAT News investigation, the deputy was put on paid leave as the internal investigation was being done, which is pretty standard. But then weeks go by and nothing seems to be changing or happening. And the community is like, okay, why is nothing happening? Then something does happen that shocks everyone. That KOAT investigation revealed the deputy was on paid leave until September 2024. But then the sheriff's office themselves confirmed he was cleared to return to full duty. That's full pay, full duties, full police work. I mean, it was completely backwards from what Elijah's loved ones were trying to do. They felt like their voices weren't heard after desperately trying for months. And they had been doing a lot to try and move the needle. Protests and walks were being held in honor of Elijah in hopes that power in numbers would sway actual action to be done with the deputy. And remember, I told you earlier, Elijah's family needed help. They went to as many of these protests as they could, but they just could not get to everything. And they ended up meeting two strangers at a protest who became hugely important to this case. Kristen Bryce and Danielle Testa didn't actually know the Hadleys before this, but they lived in Alamogordo, where the sheriff's office was, and felt so strongly about what happened to Elijah that his family ended up trusting them to help with the public advocacy side of things. And actually, because his family is being extra careful with legal proceedings, Kristen and Danielle are the reason that we know so much about Elijah's life and the case itself. For 6 weeks straight, the two of them sat outside the sheriff's office, sun up to sundown, with signs calling for the deputy to be fired and charged. The deputy, by the way, that no one still knew the name of. And while there were rumors circulating around town about who this deputy was, the Otero County Sheriff's Office never identified him publicly. But in January 2025, breaking news came down in local news feeds that Elijah's family and friends honestly thought they would never see. The Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office, who had been reviewing the case, announced they had submitted charges against Deputy Jacob Diaz-Austin for first-degree murder of Elijah Hadley. So guess what? He was now back on paid admin leave because he was now a murder defendant. Kristen told me they were shocked. I mean, things had been so quiet, they'd actually been trying to get the ACLU involved. So when I say this came out of nowhere, it really did. And there were tears, hugs, relief. Kristen said they were experiencing it all at once. Elijah's family truly felt heard and seen for the first time since he died. But the big question they all had, who was Jacob Diaz-Austin? And what was his reason or his explanation to shoot as many times as he did?
And did this subject appear to be familiar? Have you dealt with him before?
No, sir.
That's Deputy Jacob Diaz-Austin. That's 5 days after the shooting, and he's answering questions about what happened from his point of view. At that point, he was not charged in the case. Now that charges were filed 6 months later, it was videos like this that were being released as part of media public records requests. So this was the first time anyone was getting to hear the deputy's side of the story. Jacob Diaz-Austin claimed he had never seen Elijah Hadley before, and Elijah's family and friends certainly had never heard his name before either, so it didn't seem like there was any prior connection there. The deputy said when he initiated shots, Elijah grabbed across his waistband and had the gun. Here's the thing. Kristen and Danielle, even Elijah's teacher Kelly, all told me the same thing. In that exact moment, the deputy likely did fear it was a real gun, and they can understand those first shots being fired. But no one could find any explanation for the barrage of shots fired many minutes later while Elijah appeared to be clearly incapacitated on the ground. They were all very eager to hear how Deputy Diaz-Austin would explain that. And even after the deputy goes through the narrative from his POV, the detective asked the deputy this question about the overall incident.
Were verbal commands given to the subject at any time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I gave verbal commands to let me see his hands.
Okay. Did he comply?
No, sir.
Except that is not what the video shows. On both the dash cam and the body cam, we saw Elijah reach up his bloody hand, remember? But Deputy Diaz-Austin continues explaining himself to the detective.
And for him to reach over would have taken about one roll or so to get a hold of that firearm. When he reached over, I shot again. And I retreated to the rear of my unit on the driver's side where I had reloaded my firearm. And with him having the gun in his possession, in his hand, from my angle where he was, the gun was in his hand. I saw him pop up, like his shoulder come up again, and I initiated more rounds.
Okay, so basically the deputy seemed to have either thought the gun was super close to Elijah or that he rolled on top of it. But even the detective questioning him seems confused.
Prior to the second shots fired, after he was already on the ground, just to clarify, did you at any point see the firearm in his hands?
No, sir. It was on the left side of his body.
Okay. Did you saw it there, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, so it was on the ground.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And same thing for the third.
Yes, sir.
It was still on the ground.
Yes, sir. I believe the third time, his hand, I believe, was on it or near it, but on the ground. Yes, sir.
When you rolled towards it.
Yes, sir.
Now, there's something I haven't told you yet. The second Jacob Diaz-Austin's name was released to the public, advocates and supporters of Elijah started web sleuthing to learn literally everything and anything they could about him, Kristen and Danielle included. Elijah's death happened in 2024, which was 3 years after Diaz-Austin graduated from the academy and then joined the Otero County Sheriff's Office in 2021. That was all fine and good, no red flags there. Until people found a civil lawsuit from 2020 that revealed something shocking. It presented 2 new possible theories to people following the case about why the deputy fired as many times as he did. According to these court docs, in August of 2020, Jacob Diaz-Austin was teaching students a concealed carry course at a shooting range, and he was running them through a drill in some sort of area of the range that should have been closed. During that drill, apparently, he was hit in the glasses by some sort of unidentified object that hit him so hard it actually damaged his right eye. And I don't just mean a black eye. In the records, the injury is described as, quote, severe and permanent. So that left people like Kristen and Danielle mulling over a couple thoughts here. 1, is it possible the deputy had PTSD from that incident and the amount of shots he fired at Elijah was an emotional reaction? And 2, could the deputy even see where the gun was? I mean, it's a legitimate concern. It was very dark out, and if according to the court docs, his right eye is severely and permanently damaged, it is possible he did actually think the BB gun was a lot closer to Elijah's body than it actually was. But then the obvious follow-up question here is, well, how did he pass the test to become a deputy if he can't see well? That eye injury happened a year before he even became an officer. And I have his certificates. I looked at them all. It looks like he did pass all the trainings. So honestly, we don't even know if that was a factor, and we probably won't know this until it gets to trial and we see all the evidence his defense team presents, if they even mention the eye injury at all. But that did get people talking. Want to know the other thing everyone's talking about? Remember, Jacob Diaz-Austin was put back on paid admin leave since he was charged with murder. You might be thinking, well, yeah, sure, on paper, he's in jail, charged with first-degree murder. Well, no, he's not. Okay, so that must mean he bonded out, right? Also no, and he is not wearing an ankle monitor. Now, I have been covering true crime news for more than a decade, and I have never seen this in my career where somebody charged with first-degree murder, awaiting trial, who is not in custody, is not being electronically monitored. And no one I spoke to in the community seemed to know why. So I tried to figure it out, which honestly was a very complicated feat. But here's what I was able to confirm. Apparently, the deputy waived arraignment. So the New Mexico State Police told me that technically is a plea of not guilty. They said a judge decides the conditions of release and confirmed the deputy does not have on an ankle monitor. But when I tried to get clarification from both the court and the Otero County Sheriff's Office on those release conditions, I first got absolutely nowhere with the Sheriff's Office. In fact, the Otero County Sheriff's Office hasn't responded to any of my questions or emails about the case at all. I've even emailed the sheriff himself numerous times, nothing. Then I kept getting bounced around within the court system on where to get these release conditions. It was like a goose chase. It was actually so frustrating. And all of that to eventually, finally get a phone call back from the court staff telling me those release conditions are sealed, which seems annoyingly convenient for a situation so rare and controversial. So I thought that part was going to remain a mystery for now. But that recently changed. Thanks to the family advocates going to the courthouse in person in New Mexico after my attempt at trying to get the release conditions, they were somehow able to get a version that was unsealed. So reading through them, it appears that there were 3 options for release: paying a bond, going into third-party custody, or being released on personal recognizance. And it's option 3 that Deputy Diaz-Austin was released on based on these docs. Personal recognizance. That basically means that the court is taking the deputy at his word that he promises to show up at court when required. Usually, this is for low-risk defendants. Again, never heard of this for first-degree murder, but that's what ended up happening. I asked the deputy's attorneys for comments on all of this as we inch toward trial, but I got no response back. So it doesn't seem we'll truly learn more until the trial begins. That finally feels like it's almost here for Elijah's family and supporters after months of these tense hearings just to get there, where the deputy's family and friends have been there in full force supporting his innocence too. Elijah's loved ones hope ahead of what's about to come in the courtroom, you'll watch the video and what happened and understand why they continue to demand accountability in Elijah's death. Crime Junkies, we will keep you updated as this trial begins and unfolds, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for additional updates on this and other cases our team covers.